Deputy President, I rise tonight to speak about the record Aboriginal deaths in custody following the grim revelation from the New South Wales coroner, Teresa O'Sullivan, contained in an open letter that she released today. As reported by The Guardian and the ABC, New South Wales has had a record number of deaths of Aboriginal people in custody in 2025. 12 First Nations people have died in custody, and an additional 4 were killed in police operations so far this year. There are still 2 months of 2025 remaining, and I fear that these numbers could rise. Words fail to express how unacceptable this is, and to quantify the negative impact on families and on communities. It should be a point of shame for this state and a point of shame for our justice system. Each life lost carries with it a family left without answers, a community in mourning, and a system that has again betrayed its duty of care. As the coroner, Ms O'Sullivan, said, and I quote, "These are not mere statistics. They demand independent scrutiny, respect and accountability." The mass incarceration of Aboriginal people is a driving factor of increased Aboriginal deaths in custody. Over the past 5 years, Aboriginal incarceration has increased by 20%, even as general incarceration levels have declined in some jurisdictions. Aboriginal adults comprise over 1/3 of the New South Wales prison population, despite making up only 3% of the general population. The statistics in youth justice are even more stark. In 2024, Aboriginal young people made up 61.5% of the youth detention population in New South Wales. This is part of a long history of over-policing, over-sentencing and racism towards this marginalised group. Aboriginal people, particularly young people, are significantly more likely to be approached by police. For example, last year, a report on the controversial Suspect Targeted Management Plan operated by the New South Wales Police revealed it was used overwhelmingly against Aboriginal people. First Nations people are also far more likely to experience violence as a result of these police interactions. Between 2018 and 2022, there were 28,826 reports of use of force by police in Australia. Aboriginal people were the subject of 45% of those incidents. Again, this group makes up approximately 3% of the population. First Nations people are also more likely to receive custodial sentences or to be refused bail. Shockingly, nearly 46% of Aboriginal adults in custody are held on remand. That is, almost half the First Nations people in custody, often for long periods, have not been convicted of a crime. First Nations children are jailed at 20 times the rate of other children in this state. These systematic injustices give rise to a state of affairs in which First Nations people, especially children and young people, are at seriously elevated risk of experiencing violence or dying while in custody or otherwise under the care of the police. It's only a matter of time before we have another case like that of TJ Hickey, an Aboriginal young man who died after being impaled on a fence in Waterloo in 2004 after being pursued by police. We have a responsibility to take urgent action on this issue. Members of an enormously disadvantaged group are dying from preventable deaths on our watch and under our care. No one should face a premature and unnecessary death while in the custody of the state or its officers. Our justice system and our laws should not put First Nations people in a position of such increased risk of violence and death through over-policing and a heavy-handed approach to sentencing and incarceration. Our governments, all governments, must do better than this dreadful result.